Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to FortressCraft Evolved. I'm AxionEvolved, and today we're hopefully gonna start and turn the page onto kind of really getting this factory, this whole world kicked off. Before I get into that though, do me a quick favor, scroll down just a little bit, find that subscribe button, just make sure it's clicked. It really helps me out, helps the channel grow, helps me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers. So with that, let's hop right into this. Now, last episode, we looked at this guy right here. We set this thing up, and this thing honestly has been pretty huge. You know, we're cleaning up. You see there's no bug parts anywhere. Falcors are doing their jobs, and we're even getting a little ore out of it too. You know, I think we even got, look at that, 44 perfect faceted eyes. I'm gonna have to empty that out soon. Any tier 2 ores in here? Yeah, look at that. We got some tier 2s going, so not too bad. One of the things I do want to do is right now I'm just kind of, you know, I have this bypass lane over here. I'm thinking I might want to eventually get it set up so that every one of the ores can get some input from here. Because, you know, the fact that we have a bunch of iron right now is just kind of chance. It won't always be like that, right? So that's actually a nice little segue into showing you all what's been going on down here a little bit. So you can see that I've basically just expanded all of these lines by quite a bit, right? So we go down and we'll see, you know, we've got all of the, we've got some lithium trickling in over here, working its way over there, making research pods. We go down. I've decided to kind of use this method right here, right? And it's something I've talked about. Anytime, because ideally, right? Ideally, these lines are they're just taking way more ore than they can absolutely handle, right? And that our production is kind of doing what it needs to keep up. So anytime I am going up, and you can see we're going up in quite a few spots, I'm going to make a line of these hoppers to kind of load balance in between all of these hoppers, or all of the different lines, so they can feed kind of wherever this is. And you can see we've done that with copper, tin, iron, we're still over here, lithium, we're still over here. But yeah, we got a couple things going on up there, so I'm gonna go up there and show you kind of what we've been doing. And the first thing we've been doing is clearing out a ton of space. So there's all this space cleared out. And something I changed from earlier, you'll see kind of a new setup. Before, what I was doing is I was having the ore or the bars come up here, kind of do their thing, and then then like overflow to here, right? But then I thought to myself, like, what is the point of that? Why have that kind of overflow set up here when I have a whole bus down below carrying all that material? So I've just turned it into kind of spot inputs, right? So as long as we're within, you know, these 5 tiles, right? So we've got a buffer there, we're going to be able to hit one of the resource buses down below, right? So you can see I just have like random copper coming up here. I've got a random tin coming up here for lightweight machine housings. You know, I don't have I do have a dedicated tin plate factory. What else we got here? Copper coils. Looks like we're making, what is this? Primary upgrade modules and basic PCBs. So it's just a lot of stuff we can do. Iron gears, you know, right here. We need to find some kind of sink for the iron so that it doesn't back up. But that's kind of the mindset I'm going to have now, and kind of the way I'm going to be doing everything is anytime we need a raw material from down below, we're just going to bring it up directly and keep it in a self-contained system and let the bus that runs below all this ideally load balance, because, you know, everywhere there's an input right here, there is also a row of hoppers down below that are ideally, like I said, load balancing those 2 bars, or all those lines. So I do need to move and get this lithium thing right here moved so that we are kind of mass producing charged lithium coils up in here, and that'll be a nice little test of my kind of power distribution system. But that is the goal long term, right? We still got obviously quite a few machines going over to make and get set up over here. I'm starting to realize that our tier 2 materials are coming in kind of slow. So as you can see here, we got, you know, iron gears, conveyor belts kind of doing their thing. And this is just kind of the output that I want to get to. Primary upgrade modules apparently is too big. Okay, good. So that's all fine and dandy. But what's really kind of standing out to me is our output. Oh, and actually a little design thing here. I figured maybe I'll just put like this little walkway up here so we can kind of walk around, kind of see what's going on. Maybe I'll extend it down that way. But it's just a nice way to kind of walk around the factory, kind of see, check on the output lines, kind of make it look a little bit nicer. And something I actually did last video, but I kind of had to cut out of editing because it was just kind of too long, is that we got a bunch of these decorative blocks, right? If I go to self-craft, we look real quick. I'm talking tons. It's a mod, right? All these decorative blocks. So let me know. I got some here just so it's kind of like easy, copy, paste, whatever if we need it. So let me know if you guys see any that you think we should try to use. I think there's a lot of cool options, and if you're familiar with all that, then yeah, we could do that. But that's not kind of the goal for this episode. What I want to do is work on something that I've got going over here. And you can see that like that. Oh, gee, let's try not to die there. What we got going over here, and that is we are digging out this here hive mind. So what I really want to get going is maybe the start of a resin farm. And the way I'm going to do that, I think, honestly, I think I need to get a little bit lower, build a little bit lower down here so that we can really encase this thing. But I want to get this started now so that, eventually our power and all that, our power delivery system will upgrade itself. But for now, we can at least start harvesting this resin because let me tell you, it's starting to become a bottleneck. If we look at the manufacturer here, some of the big things we need for power generation, aka the turbines, plastic pellets, right? Plastic pellets we can make with refined liquid resin. If we look here, what are we looking for? Basic quarries, high energy composite fuel. What do we need for that? Refined liquid resin. So that is just kind of, we just need that, and then again, the high energy composite fuel to fuel up our turbines, right? So we're gonna need it, and then eventually, like once we have this and we have the power, we can upgrade power storage blocks, eventually get Mark IV. I don't even know what it takes, probably one of these or some combination of that. I don't know, we'll figure it out, or maybe it's some kind of other tier block that we need. But the fact is we need to start, at least start this process so that it can scale as we scale. And I'm doing it over here for a couple reasons, right? So we have, there's one here, there's one there. Those are all like decent candidates. We've even got the ones over here, but I might just destroy these for the brains because these are kind of going to be they're like in our resource lines, and the farm itself takes up quite a bit of space. But also there's another like nice thing about being over here is that this is all very close to where our quarries are. And these are not, obviously I'm not going to have just 4 quarries. We might have 24 quarries, right? So being able to kind of produce the power, and who knows, these might all start running off of turbines, or we might have kind of like some, I don't know, tier 4 batteries eventually on there with conduits and all that kind of stuff. You can see like coal kind of working, but as these get deeper, they take more power, right? So we're going to need turbines. That's just the bottom line. So right here, I figured, well, if we, are collecting refined liquid resin and maybe we process it over here somewhere in terms of making the liquid resin, and then we have refineries, over here also, it just seems like a natural spot to kind of make all this process, right? So what I'm going to do, let's see what well, I guess I can look here, huh? How much stuff? So I have 5 of each, right? So in previous playthroughs, I've liked to use the tier 4 power storage blocks, right? These guys right here, Mark IV batteries, and just put the machines directly on them. It makes it all very simple. Have a turbine on the other side that's powering this all up. I obviously don't have that kind of infrastructure yet. So what I'm going to end up doing is probably using, what are these things? Induction panels, induction chargers. So I can make 4 induction chargers, which I'm thinking I'll do on 4 corners. And I like using pipes. We don't have the infrastructure for pipes yet. Tier 2 materials are kind of an issue. So I'm probably going to end up having to use belts. We got quite a few belts, so that's gonna kind of be the plan for now. For those of you that have never, if this is your first exposure to a resin farm or even this game, I'll kind of go through the steps once I'm starting to build it. But for now, we're just kind of letting this thing dig out. It looks like it has dug itself out. I'm gonna probably lower this actually and have it clear some of this ore just so it's out of the way, but really give us some space to build around this thing. It doesn't have to be, you know, huge, but it helps to have a little bit of size, because then it gives you like enough to harvest, a little bit of space to harvest. So I'm gonna lower this thing, and you know, I'll get that building. But there's one other aspect that we have to kind of think about long term while we're kind of doing this, and that's just right over here. Let me show you. Now, a couple episodes ago, we had dealt with this, and I kind of naively maybe figured that by adding this overflow, it would kind of give us enough bandwidth to, I guess, you know, handle all these kind of things. But I'm starting to think that this is just not sufficient, right? So one of the things I think we're going to end up having to do, and you know, I don't really have a good plan on how we're going to do this just yet, but I think each line is going to have a dedicated filter output, right? And luckily, I've built quite a few advanced conveyor filters, because these need what is this? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, ideally 13 sets of filters, or 13 filters per each line, and we have 4 lines. So what's 13 times 5? 65. All right, something like that. 50, yeah, 65. So we're pretty close. If I reuse some of these guys, we have enough that where I can dedicate one set of filters for each line, plus the quarry that I want to put here for line number 5. But I figure if we kind of, and I'm not sure on the spacing here. We may have to move the macerator setup somewhere else in this process, but again, the filters are just there to kind of get out all the ore. What we're really going to be doing is macerating a whole bunch, and I'm starting to think that we're going to need a ton of maceration going on to really handle all this output for honestly very minimal gain, right? I mean, yeah, there's 3, but look how much this thing's full. This thing's, I mean, these aren't full, but they're macerating. So that's another thing. Maybe I'll start to plan out this episode and kind of put over there. But for now, focus is going to be on the resin farm, and I'm going to start building that, and then I'll bring you guys in once I've kind of got something substantial to show for it. So while that thing is building, we kind of, I want to figure out kind of like what to make this farm out of. And some of the stuff I'm looking at looks kind of peeling paint, metal. Now, it's very important that we want a reinforced block, and there is a reason for, I think this is all reinforced, so it's not that big of a deal, but there's a reason for it. So I'll kind of explain that while I'm building this, but just to kind of give you guys a little bit of insight if you don't know, when this stuff tries to grow, the purpose or its goal is to grow towards our CPH out that way, right? So this way you can kind of see, like on some of these other ones, how they're kind of starting to angle that way. If we leave this for long enough, we smelt enough stuff, you'll see these long kind of tendrils that are snaking their way towards the base, right? So we can sort of contain this growth, so to speak, by encasing this whole structure in a box of man-made brick, right? So one of these things in here, right? Now, we have to be careful though, because if we encase this whole thing in a container or a box with no exit, then it will act as if those bricks or those blocks are not there, and it will break out and it will totally ruin what we're trying to do. But if we leave a little hole, you know, somewhere to act as an entrance, then the resin, as it kind of grows, will expand to fill up the box without breaking through it, as long as it has a clear path to escape. Now, we're not going to let that happen. The resin should never get far enough to break out of everything, because we're going to be using a couple different items. So item 1, I think I have it. It's hive mind. Do I have to like look at this? There we go. So this guy right here is what we're looking for, the hive mind agitator. So what this does is when you have this close to a hive, and I had to come all the way back to the CPH to find this, but let me go show you what I mean. So when we're close to a hive mind right there, right? So if we kind of look at the hollow base, you'll see the brain is like right there-ish, right? So one thing we can do is we can put up the hive mind agitator, and while the hive mind agitator is actively being powered through, say, a laser energy transmitter, the hive mind will start to rapidly produce hard resin around the hive mind, right? And again, if we have it encased in a reinforced block with an opening, it will just try to fill the volume and then eventually work its way out the opening. So one thing we can do is, now we don't want just an uncontrolled growth of resin, because even with tons of resin processing equipment, we're not gonna be able to beat it back fast enough, or faster than it can grow, right? So one technique I've used in the past is you do something like this, and this is just kind of for demonstration purposes, right? So we'll have like the laser energy transmitter that's going to be powering the agitator on one side of the room, and then the agitator on the other side of the room, right? And so it will, maybe not closer to the center, maybe closer to an edge, but it'll be powering the agitator, which will be somewhere over here, until this thing grows enough resin where the resin blocks the power. And then when that happens, it cuts off the power, and this will stop growing and allow all of our harvesting and processing equipment to work on all the resin, right? So that's the plan. That's kind of what we're going to do there. We'll need to blow up a hive mind, and actually, what do I need for that? Chargeable, nothing. Chargeable explosive. Mark III power. Oh, see, we need refined liquid resin for that. Oh, that's less than ideal, right? So we're going to need to blow up those hive minds somehow, meaning I may need to either harvest this hive mind right here until we can get some, or kind of harvest some of this already ablated resin, but I don't think that's enough. Yeah, because we're going to need to kill these. I mean, unless there's another way. I think chargeable explosives is the only way. Yes, that's the only way I know of off the top of my head. So let's process this real quick, so to speak. We'll process this, get the stuff for chargeable explosive, charge them, blow these up, and then we can kind of do what we need to do over there. But we can at least also start construction on that too. Now, in terms of what we're going to kind of put on there, I want to see what this looks like. Rusted concrete. I'm just going to like throw it down. What is that? Is that... How would that look? Not the greatest, I think. I don't necessarily... I mean, this thing doesn't need to be pretty necessarily, but I kind of want it to look decent. Like, it kind of needs to look... It's essentially a prison, right? So it needs to look a little worn, a little stuff like that, but it doesn't need to actually be... I mean, I do like this. The wooden crate looks kind of cool. Drained grate. Oh, that could be okay. Metal siding. I think we have one of those. Celtic braid. Yeah, I don't really know 100%. Ooh, this could look okay, maybe. Let's make one of those real quick. What do you look like? I mean, that's not too bad. You know, let's just go with this. Let's just go with that. Now, we don't need it here, right? So, where is this thing? Okay, so this looks like it's cleared out all of the... There's some coal in here. Looks like it's cleared all that out. So, this guy can just be done. We'll get rid of him. And then we need to establish what the floor is going to be. So I want a little bit of room. Let's see, where are we at here? Is that -9? And what is this at? Where are we about here? Okay, so it's definitely, if we do -9 to 31, that should be about 40 blocks. That's kind of big though. I don't know if 40 blocks is too big. Let's see. We're at, what is this? 217 to 257. So, okay, I guess we could do 40 by 40. That's kind of what this would be, right? Kind of like this. And then, here, let me just do it from over here. Because obviously we got a giant hole over here. Let's grab that. Right. And we're going to kind of just make the outline at least. Because I think I'm going to need a ton of construction paste to kind of do this. So I'm going to make the perimeter and then I'll bring you guys back just because I'm going to have to kind of like figure it all out and it might take a little bit. All right. So there's kind of the scale. It should be about 40 by 40. I think that's actually going to be okay. That looks like plenty of space. And I think, so another thing that we have to consider that shouldn't be a huge problem, but it is, again, something we need to consider, is that all of this equipment, these ablaters, have about a 15 to 16 block range, I believe, which means, you know, we won't be able to put this stuff just on the walls because then you won't be able to get to the center. So we'll have to kind of step everything in a little bit to accommodate. And what I've done this before, so it'll be okay. I've never done this at the point where I needed to use induction chargers and coal. I was always using Mark IV batteries and turbines and stuff. But you know what? This is a mega factory, and we're trying new things. I've also never made 5 quarries at one time either. I guess I still technically haven't, but. Yeah, that's going to kind of be the plan. So, I'm going to eventually fill this all in. Let me know what you guys think about the size. Again, we can kind of have, instead of being on the wall, we can have some of the processors being like right here and right here. And, the corners could be an issue. So maybe we'll do that. But overall, I think it'll be okay, as long as it kind of does what it needs to do. We could even, what I did also in the last season is I had batteries up top powered by solar panels. They were all also powered by turbines and stuff too, so that was a thing. But it's going to be interesting, to say the least. I love doing resin farms though. I think they're super fun. But we will need, here, let's get this up to the right level because we're going to need to figure out like a door situation, like an entrance and an opening, and kind of figure, do I want to just have the floor level be where the entrance is? I mean, that might make the most sense just from a logistical standpoint to kind of center this. Here, let's kind of, let me at least add some walls just so we kind of have a little bit of semblance of like where we are. We'll do this because I do like things to be centered, right? Okay, so over here we're at Z equals 30. Over here we're at Z equals 68, which is 38, 39, 40. Okay, so we need to go, was this 30 and what? 19 is 49. Z equals 49 to be centered. All right. So I guess we'll do this. This will be our entrance. What's on the other side of this? Okay, really basically nothing. And again, we're not going to, this will be the only way in and out. Just so, again, so the resin has somewhere to go. All right, so I'm gonna kind of dig this thing out. I'm gonna maybe finish it off. How much? We may have enough construction paste, but I'm gonna kind of clear this out so that it's open and finish off the walls, and then I'll bring you guys back over there for when we're gonna kind of attack that resin, and that'll kind of help me show you. I've done this before, but I'll show you. It'll help show you or illustrate kind of the plan for this. So I've set up a little hotbar here, and we're gonna start kind of processing some of that stuff. So let's throw down an induction charger right here, and then from here, so we need to the two most important things. I don't think we need too many ablators, honestly. I mean, we should. What's the distance to this? To like say there, 17. Okay, so we should be pretty well within the 16-ish meter range of this stuff. So I think I'm only going to do about one ablator. So the ablator is what turns it into this red. So this is the normal state. The red state is the ablated state, or I guess softened, right? And then the liquefiers are kind of what's important. They actually take the ablated stuff and output it, right? So let's do something like this. I'm going to do this. And I think they need, yeah, they're going to need an output hopper. In fact, I'm going to do this. Put that there. And put this here. We'll do that. We'll do that. And we'll do that. And we'll do something like this. And we'll do something like this. And something like that. And we'll have those go into a big hopper, which will be remove only. And then from there, we'll do refiners that go into another add only hopper, right? So this is all going to need power, right? So I don't really know how exactly I'm going to power this. Ooh, I could just come down below it, but I don't want to have to rerun all this. So maybe I'll just do something like this. I'll just go boop, like that, like that, like that. And this should all become clear ever so soon. We're just gonna kind of do this number. Yeah, I know I could be more efficient with these hoppers, but this is just a super temporary setup. And then we'll do that to feed it all. And then I'm just gonna hook these all up. And then I'm gonna feed this with some of the infused coal I have and just kind of let it do its thing. Right? And I'm pretty sure that this can transfer power, right? Is this getting power? Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it's getting power. It's just going to be a matter of making sure that this thing stays full and kind of letting it do its job. So, let's see. We want to start seeing the output here. So, hopefully that works out. It looks like these things are just... I mean, they're probably going to take a while to power up, though, huh? Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a bleeding, so that's good. Now, do we have any resin yet? Okay, good. We have some liquid resin, and I can get rid of that. So we'll just let this do its thing, and then from there we can kind of take... It's going to be kind of slow, I think, at least initially, because we're only, you know, this is not the most efficient way to do this, but when we're kind of doing this for the resin farm, this whole setup will be flat, and it'll kind of be a more even distribution of ablators and liquefiers. Probably I could do maybe 6 of each, maybe 10 of each, depending. The hard part is going to be the power and making sure this all gets enough power, because, well, I mean, I guess I could do something like this. I don't know. We'll figure it out, and then yeah. So let's let this do its thing. Do we have an output already? Nice. All right, let's do this thing, and then I'll show you kind of what we've been doing at the resin farm. And it's just a big cube. It's just a completely enclosed 40 by 40 cube with no way in and no way out, except for this little guy over here. I put this little This little entrance right here. I feel like it's kind of cool to keep it kind of tucked in over here. So you can just kind of roll in and then you'll be able to see everything, right? So I guess this is a good time as any to kind of maybe look at how we're going to set some of this up, at least on the interim, right? Because there's a couple things that we have to, you know, take advantage of or take into account. So let's just kind of set this thing up. And again, I don't know distance-wise how this is going to work. Dang, okay. So I guess, never mind. This isn't going to work with induction chargers unless I do them all from the ground. Not the end of the world. I mean, we can make that work. In fact, let's make that work. Let's go to some arbitrary point. Maybe right here. Yep, I think that'll work. And then we can just grab our induction chargers. Now, the only thing that we're going to have an issue with is that we're not going to have the ability to regenerate the resin once we kind of start using it, right? So let's do another one on the opposite side. And, you know, as much as I'd love to have these be perfectly symmetrical, this is just the temp setup. So we're not too concerned. So let's do this. We'll call this the, again, temporary setup. The final setup will have batteries and turbines and all that, of course.
Structure complete.
Nice, nice, nice. All right. So that'll kind of be, that should be, of course, are they one block off? Of course they are. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So the setup will be something kind of like this, where we're ablating and we're ablating. And then we got the liquefiers back behind. Or I could do the ablators on one, like the upper side, and the liquefiers on the bottom. I don't know. We have to, so we're going to have to plan for how to get the coal through here, but also how to output the liquid resin, because for this setup, I don't do the processing with the liquefiers in here or the refiners. I send that all outside to be processed elsewhere, right? So that's kind of that. But that's kind of the gist of what we're going to do with this. I'm going to have to kind of get more materials together, get more of the production equipment, and kind of figure out where we're going to do the processing. I'm thinking, oh man, I could do the processing maybe in this little mountain right here. You know, what I did in the past is I just had it output in like a corner. So everything kind of coalesced into one corner and outputted like this way. I can even do grommets. You know, we can have it output over there and have just like a whole thing that's getting doing all the processing within this little mountain. So maybe that's actually the plan. I think that's a good idea. So that's what I'm gonna do in the next episode. So thank you guys so much. I'm gonna try to again put out more content more frequently, but thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for hopefully helping me reach that goal of 1,000 subs. If you're still here, if you're still listening to this, then you're the real ones. Appreciate you guys the most. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.